Chris Ballard speaks to the media for the first time in a long time at his end of season presser. I'm going to give you my reaction, high points, low points, all that and more on this, the No Horsing Around podcast. What is up, you guys? What is up, Colts Nation? No Horsing Around family, all those great things. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Burton. And on today's episode of the No Horsing Around podcast, Chris Ballard spoke at his usual end-of-season presser. He always tells you things without telling you things. We know this by now in his 7th season of doing this. Let's kind of dive in a little bit to some of the high points. What did he say? What do we think he meant? Obviously, touching on the end of the season, he was not happy you didn't make the playoffs, but encouraged. I enjoyed hearing that. I mean, he's always very open, I feel. Very, very good in the press conference setting, especially like this at the end of the season, where he kind of controls it. I thought it was very interesting where people talked to him about how does your plan in free agency change a little bit. We know he's very prudent. He's very like my boy Zach says all the time, he's a penny pincher. Like, he doesn't spend a lot of money. We get excited about the possibility of bringing in these players, and then he doesn't really do it. He waits till that second and third wave of free agency to attack it, and it pisses everybody off, including Zach. Like, you guys have been on here before where he's been very upset about him not really doing it. And when asked about it, because he's not having to pay a quarterback big money, he did acknowledge that that's a big difference than years past. You're not paying $27.5 million, somewhere around there, for Carson Wentz. You're not paying $30-something million for Matt Ryan like you did before. You're not paying $20-something million for Phillip Rivers the year before that. You're not having to pay this big money to your quarterback, and your quarterback showed flashes, so you can try to build around him. And I thought it was interesting what he said, and kind of quoting him, we'll be prudent, but we'll also be aggressive, as we need to be in free agency with the players we think can help us. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, what does that mean? Is that just word soup? Is that just him saying what he wants us to hear? Or is he going to attack? And see, here's the thing, you guys. Like, we can be like, oh, I want T. Higgins. Well, if he doesn't think T. Higgins is a player that can help the team, he's not going to break the bank for him, right? Like, he's not going to go and do that. Like, that's the key here, is the players that we think can help us, right? Like, that's what he's saying. So we don't know who those players are. We have no idea, right? We have no clue who these players are. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, there's a ton of questions about Anthony Richardson. How's he looking? How's he doing? How's this rehab going? Obviously, we had the presser with Anthony Richardson. We had the one-on-one sit-down. We know he's doing well. We know that if everything breaks correctly, he's going to start throwing next month for the first time. So he'll be ready for that offseason OTAs and really getting kind of into the grind. I thought it was really interesting. Side note, him talking about how he was kind of looking forward to rest and relaxation a little bit after his rookie season, but because of the way that it went, he's all go. He's going to be between Indy and Jacksonville, rehabbing, throwing, getting with the coaches, basically all offseason as it permits by the CBA, right? So that's awesome. I think it's always going to be interesting because Ballard is never – Anthony Richardson could have had 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns in the air, 10 touchdowns on the ground, and he still would say, let's not crown him yet. Like, we're not going to crown him. He's not, like, let's not go there yet. He's always going to stamp down expectations. But he said that he was very encouraged by Anthony. He felt like he showed a lot of flashes. Obviously, he has to stay healthy, right? We have to learn to teach him to play, not necessarily from the pocket. Like, you don't want to inhibit his abilities, but he's more important to the team healthy. Yet again, Anthony even said, what did he learn by not participating in it? What did he lose by not playing in the rest of the season? He said the playoffs. So he understood it as well. So I think that was an interesting thing to hear. And he said it's a tough balance when you're this athletic freak. Like, it's a tough balance, right? I thought it was interesting. Obviously they delved into, we got the answers we thought we would about Isaiah McKenzie, and as well as Tony Brown. There's not a comment Hey, they broke a team rule. We suspended them. Boom. That was it. Like, I'm not going to go into details. Anybody who thought that he would, I think, hasn't watched his press conferences, hasn't seen Chris Ballard speak, that he was not going to say anything. Same with Drew Ogletree. Hey, we're going to let the legal process play out, and then we'll go from there. Like, he's on the exempt list. I got nothing to say, right? And then obviously, too, any in-house free agent, Kenny Moore. Obviously, we want him back. Grover Stewart. Obviously, we'd like him back, if we can get it. It was interesting to hear him talk about Michael Pittman Jr., right? That's the big one. We look at it, we go, Michael Pittman Jr., he's the must re-sign, the must get back in the building. I mean, over 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards. The offense didn't look the same without him. I thought it was really interesting to hear him talk about him. Hey, and this is a direct quote, care deeply about him. We have an honest relationship, almost too honest. Guy's competitive. He's tough. He wants to win. We're going to work to get him back. So, I mean, we take that what you will. We've all said, I don't think he's letting Michael Pittman Jr. get out of the building. It's going to put a number in front of him that's going to keep him as a Colt. But it's interesting to see it. It's interesting to hear him kind of expand more on that and talk about it. I mean, even talking about Shane Steichen a little bit, talking about he's excited to see him grow. He's kind of that all-ball mentality. Sometimes I think Ballard gets a very bad rap. I like Chris Ballard. I don't trust everything he does, but I think there are far worse GMs in the league. I know we're talking 7 seasons in, no division titles, all those things, right? Like a handful, like 2 playoff appearances. But I think he's got the right quarterback now. He's got the right coach in place. I think this offseason is going to be very interesting because he has something he's never had, which is that rookie quarterback, that contract to work with, and to kind of see what he wants to do, how does he want to attack it. I think the Colts are very much best player available almost in the first round, right at that 15 pick, which I'd be stunned if we pick at 15, right? Like, he's going to move up or down and gather more picks. We got 7 of them, probably come out of there with like 10. But, I mean, overall, it's exactly what I thought it was. 40-plus minutes of him sitting there and answering questions. And Colts Nation and No Horsing family, don't take that for granted, right? Don't take it for granted that he does this every offseason. GMs don't generally sit there. I mean, at the end of this press conference, he was like, are you sure you don't have any more questions? GMs don't do that. Like, he's very honest without telling you anything while telling you everything, right? It's just kind of how he is. And he sits there and he will sit there and he will take the questions and he'll answer them, like a GM. But don't take it for granted because there's a lot of GMs that don't do that and don't handle it well. And therefore sometimes just don't even do it, period. So what did y'all think? I came out of it not really feeling like I know a hell of a lot more, but at the same time, like, you go through it, rewatch it, because he tells you everything that you think he's going to tell you. It's hidden in there. He's very straightforward. He's not going to tell you who they're going to draft, right? But he's going to tell you, like, his thoughts and kind of wax poetic about that. So drop it in the comments. What did you guys think of the press conference? Did you watch it? Did you watch it live? Did you react to it? What did you think? Are you still pro Ballard? Are you negative Ballard? Where do you sit going into the offseason? What do you think of what he said about Michael Pittman Jr. or Anthony Richardson or Kenny Moore or Shane Steichen or anybody? As always, you guys like, share, subscribe, comment, all those great things. We love you. We're headed into the offseason, so it's a lot of build-up. We'll get you guys free agency, and we'll talk about the draft, and we'll do all these different things like we always do in the offseason. As opposed to last year, the one nice thing is we're not scavenging for a quarterback, and we're not scavenging for a head coach. So both those things are nice in regards to just the amount of content that gets pumped out there, but we'll be pumping it out. And as always, you guys, I love you. I know Zach loves you. I'm out.